Hello and welcome back. Today I will talk about mobility, which is by far my biggest emission factor. My mobility-related emissions amounted to roughly 4 tons of CO2 in 2019, which is just over 50% of my total emissions. The carbon footprint calculator I used allowed for a very detailed approach, so I was really able to break down this sector into its various components, and here are the results. The first diagram shows all my mobility-related emissions except those caused by flights. Subtotal here is 0.6. Biggest factor was car sharing, carpool and rentals. The second biggest factor was long-distance train travel in Germany, but check out the distance I traveled. Train travel, especially here in Germany, has extremely good emission ratios. 3 smaller factors were long-distance train travel in other countries, regional train travel and local public transport. 2 possible factors are left out here. No cars, because I don't have a car of my own, and no boats, because I don't like boats. Coming to the flights now, a subtotal of 3.38 tons of CO2, divided into 2 categories here, private flights and job-related flights. I only had European flights in 2019, but quite a number of them. And I counted each takeoff as 1 flight because that's where most of the emissions are produced. So my mobility-related emissions amounted to a total of 3.98 tons of CO2, which is roughly double the German average. This made me come to the following personal conclusions. No more private flights, no more domestic flights, no more European flights unless it takes longer than 12 hours by train to reach the destination, and no more transcontinental flights for single gigs. Of course, always prefer direct flights to multi-stop flights. Always prefer mass transit to individual travel. Try to travel less and always compensate for your travels. There's a second thing that bothers me about mobility. Whether I'm going to a concert or a rehearsal, a studio, whatever, I'm never the only one who has to get there. My fellow musicians, venue staff, technicians, and of course the audience, which can mean hundreds or even thousands of people, they all have to get there. Now, if the venue is in a city and well reachable by bike, foot or public transport, and the audience is more or less local, this may not be such a big thing. But if the venue is far off in the countryside and people may travel long distances just to see you live, this can amount to a huge load of CO2 emissions. The famous band Radiohead once calculated 2 of their US tours. One was in city venues, one was in remote venues. And they found that the emissions for the remote venue concerts were up to 6 times higher than the urban venue concerts. And they also found that fan travel was responsible for 86 to 97% of the total CO2 emissions. Now this of course is an extreme example, but I did a quick calculation for an average jazz club concert, and even here the differences are notable. The first example is a club concert in an urban venue, which is well reachable by public transport. I chose a crowd of 100 people, of which I suggest 30 would arrive by car, 30 would arrive by bus, tram or subway, 30 arrive by foot or bike, and 10 arrive by regional or mainline train. This makes for a total crowd travel emission of 82.3 kilograms. The second example is a club concert in the countryside, detached from public transportation grids. The crowd is the same, it's 100 people, but here I figured 75 would arrive by car and only 25 would arrive by foot or bike, which leaves a total emission of 150.1 kilograms. That makes for a difference of roughly 68 kilograms in CO2 emissions per concert. So if both clubs do 1 concert a month, we're already looking at a difference of over 800 kilograms of CO2 in the mobility sector alone over the course of 1 year. So lots of change potential here. Just some quick ideas on this. Why not offer a small ride-sharing platform on the club's website, or cooperate with a local car dealer to offer a small shuttle service? Reserve more parking space at the venue for bicycles, or offer ticket discounts to people who leave their cars at home. Now I know firsthand, of course, that in this field of work there's usually a shortage of both time and money to implement changes. But it's really important to know that some of the measures, not only in the mobility sector but all the other sectors as well, will actually save time and money, even in the short run. So there's really no reason to not start rethinking. I highly recommend checking out the Green Touring Guide and also the Green Club Guide. Both are great resources and freely available online. I also recommend checking out Julie's Bicycle and their collection of online creative green tools. And if you like this video, please consider supporting me and my cause on Patreon. And stay tuned for the next episode, which will be on nutrition. Thanks for watching.